Have you ever noticed how your life starts to change? Right after you open up to someone, you tell them your dreams, and suddenly they doubt you. You share your pain, and somehow it's used against you. You show your kindness, and people start to take advantage of it. We live in a world that tells us to be real. Be open, be honest. But here's the bitter truth. Not everyone deserves access to your truth, because what you reveal, they can use. What you share, they can twist. And what you make visible can be destroyed. The Stoics knew this long before social media taught us to overshare. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. Your words, your emotions, your plans, these are all extensions of your control. And the moment you give them away carelessly, you give away your power." So today, we'll uncover 7 things you should never reveal to anyone. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Because silence isn't weakness. Silence is strength. Welcome to Stoic Sage Academy. Let's begin. Your deep emotions in the heat of the moment. When emotions rise, wisdom falls. That's not just a clever line, it's a law of life. Think about it. Every major mistake you've ever made, every regret that still echoes in your mind, didn't come from a calm, steady moment. Did it? No. It came when your emotions took the wheel, when anger blinded reason, when pride silenced patience, when fear spoke louder than truth. We all have those moments, when the storm inside feels impossible to contain. Someone says something that cuts deep. A loved one disappoints you. A stranger disrespects you. And before you can think, words fly like arrows, sharp, fast, irreversible. And once spoken, you can't pull them back. You can apologize, yes. You can explain, sure. But the wound remains. And the worst part? You don't just wound others. You wound yourself. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The Stoics believed that emotions are natural, but reactions are choices. And it's in that small space between stimulus and response that your entire destiny is decided. In the heat of the moment, that space feels microscopic, but it's there, and the one who can find it controls everything. When you react in anger, you are not acting, you are bleeding. You reveal where it hurts. You show others where your armor cracks. You expose your pain points, your triggers, your insecurities, the coordinates to your inner battlefield. And let me tell you something about people. The world doesn't always use that information to help you heal. Some will use it to control you. Some will use it to provoke you. And some will simply lose respect for you because they saw you lose control. That's why Stoicism doesn't teach you to suppress emotions. It teaches you to master them. Suppression is weakness disguised as strength. Mastery, however, is strength cloaked in calm. Imagine this. A warrior stands before an enemy who insults him, spits on him, mocks everything he stands for. The crowd waits for him to explode, but he doesn't. He simply looks at the man, breathes deeply, and turns away. Now, to the crowd, that may look like cowardice, but to the Stoic it's divine strength, because the warrior has won the most important battle, the battle against himself. Marcus Aurelius called this the art of inner citadel. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That is Stoicism's greatest teaching. The one who governs himself cannot be governed by emotion. Think about how modern life tests this every day. A comment online, a betrayal by a friend, a driver cutting you off in traffic, a family member misunderstanding your intentions. Your mind ignites. Your heart races. Your body screams for reaction. But every time you react, you lose energy. Every time you lash out, you surrender power. And every time you lose control, the world learns how to push your buttons again. The Stoic doesn't allow that. He practices restraint not because he's emotionless, but because he values peace more than pride. So what do you do when the fire rises inside? Step 1, pause, do nothing. Say nothing. You are not your first impulse. You are what follows after. Step 2, breathe deeply, slowly, until your heartbeat returns to reason. The Stoics often meditated on this. Marcus Aurelius wrote that even emperors, surrounded by chaos, betrayal and war must return to their breath, because the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Step 3. Observe your emotion as a visitor. Anger is not you. It's an energy passing through you. Fear is not you. It's your body preparing for defense. Sadness is not you. It's your heart asking for stillness. Don't fight them. Don't feed them. Just watch them come and go, like clouds drifting through the sky of your mind. Seneca gave one of the most powerful warnings on anger ever written. Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. Let that sink in. When you lash out at someone who hurt you, your anger doesn't protect you. It punishes you twice, once when you get hurt, and again when you destroy your peace trying to win. That's the irony of emotional outbursts. You lose twice. But silence? Silence makes you win quietly, because silence says, I see the game. I feel the fire. But I choose not to burn. The Stoic's true power isn't in his calm face. It's in the storm he doesn't let escape. It's in the thought he doesn't say. It's in the reaction he replaces with reflection. When others scream, he listens. When others attack, he observes. When others lose control, he tightens his grip on himself. That's real dominance. Not over others, but over self. So the next time someone provokes you, the next time you feel your blood boiling, remember this. Every reaction is a test. Every outburst is a lesson. And every silence is a victory. You don't have to prove your strength by shouting. You prove it by staying unmoved. Because true control isn't about having no emotion. It's about having emotion and still making the right choice. When the storm hits, don't rush to speak. Don't try to win. Don't try to justify. Just breathe. And when the silence returns, speak only what adds peace. Because power belongs not to the one who spreads the fire, but to the one who walks through it without burning. Your long-term plans. The power of silent building nothing dies faster than a dream spoken too soon. We all know that feeling, that rush of excitement when a new idea strikes your heart. You can almost see it already. The vision, the success, the applause. It's intoxicating, and in that moment, what do most people do? They talk. They tell their friends, their family, their coworkers, anyone who will listen. They share their plans, their dreams, their next big thing, but here's the tragedy. The moment you speak it, your mind gets confused. It starts to believe the work is already done. You've announced it. You've felt the validation. You've received the reward without earning it. And so, the fire that was meant to fuel your journey starts to fade before the first step is even taken. Seneca warned us long ago, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. What he meant wasn't just about location. He meant energy, focus, attention. When your plans are scattered among the ears of others, your energy fragments with them. A piece of your dream now lives in someone else's opinion. A fragment of your motivation now depends on their approval. And soon, you no longer own your vision. You've loaned it out to the world. In psychology, there's a concept known as the intention illusion. It means that simply talking about a goal tricks the brain into feeling the satisfaction of having achieved it. It's why people love making New Year's resolutions, but rarely keep them. You tell everyone, I'm going to start a business. They applaud. You feel proud, and that moment of pride replaces the very hunger you needed to make it real. Your mind celebrates the story of your success before you've even lived it. And in that illusion, the dream begins to die quietly. But there's another danger, far greater than the loss of motivation. When you share your plans too early, you invite the world's fear into your vision. Someone will say, that's too risky. Another will say, that's not practical. And someone else will remind you of all the ways they failed. At first, you'll shrug it off. You'll tell yourself you're strong enough to ignore it. But later, when the night is quiet and doubt creeps in, you'll hear their voices whispering in your mind. You can't do that. You're not ready. People like you don't succeed in things like that, and you'll start to wonder if maybe they were right. That's how other people's fears become our own. Not through force, but through repetition. The more you hear it, the more it becomes your voice. Marcus Aurelius wrote, The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know what they are talking about. Understand this deeply. Not everyone deserves to speak over your destiny. Not everyone can see what you see, because your vision was given to you, not to them. They weren't there when the idea first came alive inside you. They didn't feel that spark, that whisper from the universe that said, "This is yours to build." So why hand over the blueprint to people who can't even imagine the architecture? Protect your plans like seeds underground. Think about a seed. Before it breaks through the soil, it must grow in silence, in darkness, in solitude. If you dig it up every day to show others its progress, it will never grow. It dies in the light of premature exposure. Your goals work the same way. They need time to root. They need the stillness of secrecy. They need to be nourished by quiet consistency, not by loud validation. Every great builder, every philosopher, every thinker who ever changed the world, they all understood this law. When Marcus Aurelius was writing Meditations, he wasn't broadcasting it to anyone. He wrote it privately, a dialogue with himself. He didn't write for attention. He wrote for mastery, and centuries later, those silent words changed the lives of millions. That's the irony of greatness. It's born in silence, but it echoes forever. If you want to achieve something extraordinary, remember this: public energy weakens private focus. Every time you speak your plan aloud, you divide your energy between doing and proving. Stop trying to convince people. Start building quietly. Let your actions speak when the time is right. Because the fruit of a tree doesn't need to announce its arrival. It simply appears when it's ready. But I know, it's hard. We all crave encouragement. We all want someone to say, "I believe in you." We all want to share our excitement. And there's nothing wrong with that, in moderation. But learn to be selective. Don't speak your plans to those who can't see beyond their limitations. Don't share your dreams with those who've given up on theirs. Don't reveal your direction to people who are lost in circles. The Stoics called this guarding your reason, because reason is sacred. It's the flame inside that guides you through the dark, and you don't hand your flame to anyone who might blow it out. So the next time inspiration strikes, and you feel that urge to announce your dream to the world, pause. Write it down. Keep it close. Water it daily with discipline, not discussion. Let your results do the talking when the time comes. Let your success reveal the story. Because the truth is, no one forgets a person who spoke less and did more. The Stoics would tell you, don't chase applause. Chase excellence. Because applause fades, but mastery stays. And if you stay silent long enough to build something real, you'll never have to convince anyone again. Your work will speak your name for you. Protect your plans like a seed underground. Let them grow roots in silence. And when they finally rise toward the light, you won't need to say a word. The world will see the fruit for itself. Your weaknesses and fears, the secrets that chain. There's a difference between being honest and being exposed. We live in a time when everyone tells you to open up, share your truth, be vulnerable, and yes, there's beauty in authenticity, but there's also danger in exposure. Because not everyone who listens with love. Not everyone who asks what's wrong asks to help you heal. Some simply want to know where you bleed, and once they know how to make you bleed again. The Stoics understood this with painful clarity. They lived among emperors, soldiers, slaves, and schemers. And they knew that revealing weakness to the wrong person was like giving your enemy a sword. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." In other words, stop expecting virtue from others. Be virtuous yourself, but do not assume others will honor it, because many will not. Let's face it, humans are complicated. Some people see your vulnerability and respond with compassion. Others see it and smell opportunity. They'll comfort you in public and criticize you in private. They'll call it advice while secretly celebrating your failure. They'll hold your weaknesses not in empathy, but in memory, waiting for a day they can use them. That's why Stoic strength begins with selective honesty. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Seneca wrote, He who is brave is free, but bravery is not the same as exposure. Bravery is facing your fear in silence, not announcing it to the crowd. A brave man wrestles his demons in solitude. He doesn't broadcast his battles. He wins them quietly. And when he emerges, people only see the scars, not the struggle. Let me tell you something that most people never understand. The world doesn't respect what it pities. It might comfort you when you're weak, but it admires you when you're strong. And if you reveal every crack in your armor, people stop seeing the warrior. They only see the wound. So guard your wounds, heal them in peace, because your private healing will one day become your public strength. Now, don't misunderstand this. Stoicism doesn't mean you suppress your emotions or deny your struggles. It means you become their master. To the Stoic, fear is not an enemy, it's a teacher. It points you to the places you have yet to grow. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that includes mastering your fear. When you hide your fears from the world, you're not pretending they don't exist. You're choosing to face them in the right arena. Not the arena of gossip, not the arena of judgment, but the arena of your own soul. That's where transformation happens. Here's what happens when you reveal your fears too soon. You give others power over your emotional landscape. Every fear you confess becomes a button they can push. Every weakness you expose becomes a lever they can pull. And when they want control, they won't need to fight you. They'll just press what hurts. That's why the Stoics practiced restraint, not out of pride, but out of protection. They believed that inner peace was too sacred to hand over to anyone else. Picture this. A man sits quietly in a crowded room. People talk, argue, brag, yet he says little. But inside his silence, he's building strength. He knows his flaws, but he works on them privately. He knows his fears, but he faces them when no one's watching. To the world, he looks calm. To himself, he is training. He doesn't need validation for his struggle, only victory. That's the Stoic way. Modern culture glorifies transparency. Share everything, they say. Be open, they insist. But radical openness often invites radical misunderstanding. The more you reveal, the more the world misinterprets you. Your weakness becomes gossip. Your fear becomes content. Your struggle becomes entertainment. And that's not Stoicism. That's self-sabotage. The wise don't hide out of shame. They protect out of wisdom. Think about how Marcus Aurelius lived. The emperor of Rome, one of the most powerful men in history, wrote down his deepest struggles, doubts, and fears, but never shared them. He kept them in a private journal. He didn't post them on marble walls or whisper them to senators. He wrote them for one purpose: to strengthen his soul. Those writings became meditations, a masterpiece that still changes lives today. But he never meant for anyone to read them. Why? Because his weaknesses were meant to be confronted, not advertised. That's the Stoic way. Heal privately, shine publicly. When you speak too openly about your fears, something subtle happens inside you. You begin to identify with them. You start saying, "I am anxious, I am insecure, I am not enough." And soon, that language becomes your identity. But the Stoic says, you feel fear, you are not fear. You experience weakness, you are not weakness. You are the observer of these emotions, not their slave. And what you observe, you can control. There's power in mystery. There's grace in restraint. There's dignity in silence. When you keep certain things to yourself, your insecurities, your doubts, your inner wounds, you create space for them to heal without interference. Healing doesn't happen when everyone is watching. It happens when you're alone, honest, and raw. When you face the mirror and whisper, "I can do better." So what should you do with your weaknesses and fears? 1. Acknowledge them privately. Don't deny them. That's pride. See them clearly. That's courage. Study them deeply. Every fear has a root. Every weakness has a story. Understand it so it no longer controls you. Work on them daily, silently. Growth doesn't make noise. The oak doesn't shout as it grows. Transform them into strength. When you conquer a fear, you gain confidence. When you heal a weakness, you gain wisdom. Remember this truth. The Stoic isn't someone who feels no fear. He's someone who refuses to be ruled by it. Fear will knock on your door every day. Just don't invite it in for dinner. Weakness will whisper that you're not enough. Just smile and keep moving. And when someone asks you about your struggles, you don't need to lie. You simply say, "I'm working on myself." That's all. Simple, strong, stoic. Because at the end of the day, your weaknesses and fears are not things to display. They're things to defeat, and the victory doesn't need applause. It just needs you, focused, silent, resilient. The world will never know how many battles you fought in silence, but they will see the strength that silence created. 4. The depth of your knowledge. The quiet strength of the wise knowledge is like fire. Used wisely, it brings light and warmth. Used carelessly, it burns the one who wields it. In our age of noise, where everyone wants to be seen as the smartest voice in the room, wisdom has become rare. Because true wisdom doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It lives quietly in those who have mastered the art of restraint. The Stoics understood that what you know means nothing if you lack the discipline to stay silent. Epictetus, once a slave, later a teacher to kings, said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." A simple statement. But behind it lies one of the deepest truths of life. The wise learn through listening. The foolish destroy their wisdom through noise. Because the moment you start showing off your knowledge, you stop seeking more of it. The moment you crave recognition for what you know, you stop growing in what you could know. In this modern world, we've confused information with wisdom. We think because we can quote books, statistics, or philosophies, we are enlightened. But wisdom isn't about memory. It's about mastery of perspective. You can read every Stoic text ever written, but if you cannot control your ego, you've learned nothing. Seneca warned us of this. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. He was not speaking of money alone. He meant knowledge too. The one who constantly wants to prove how much he knows is still poor in understanding. Because the wise never seek to impress, only to improve. Think about this. A candle that burns too brightly burns out too soon. A man who talks too much about what he knows soon stops listening, and when you stop listening, you stop learning. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, was surrounded by scholars, generals, and orators every day. He could have spoken endlessly to display his intelligence. But instead he wrote, "If someone is mistaken, instruct him kindly and show him his error. But if you cannot do so, blame yourself or no one." That's humility. That's wisdom clothed in patience. He didn't debate for victory. He spoke for truth. Let's pause here for a moment. Think about your own life. How often have you tried to prove yourself in conversation? To show that you know more than the other person? To win the argument instead of understanding it? It's almost instinctive. We crave recognition. But every time you do that, you lose a piece of your calm, because the ego that needs to be right is never at peace. And peace is what Stoicism is all about. The Stoics believed that the loudest mind is the weakest one. The more a man truly knows, the less he feels the need to show it. Because knowledge is like a deep river. It flows silently. Shallow waters make the most noise. But the deep remains still. When you reveal the full depth of your knowledge to others, something subtle happens. You lose the advantage of mystery. You show your hand too early. People start to mirror you, copy you, compete with you, or worse, resent you. Seneca once said, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." In other words, share knowledge only where it can grow, not where it will be wasted. Don't cast pearls before those who trample wisdom with arrogance. Speak only when your words can plant a seed, not when they serve your pride. In the ancient world, the great teachers were not those who spoke the most, but those who spoke last. They observed the discussion. They let others expose their ignorance. Then, when they finally spoke, silence fell. Not because they demanded respect, but because their restraint had already earned it. That is the aura of true wisdom. Quiet, patient, powerful. There's a story told of Zeno, the founder of Stoicism. When he first began learning philosophy, his teacher told him, "Your tongue is your greatest enemy." So Zeno trained himself to listen in silence for years before teaching. He knew that every word spoken too soon weakens the message later spoken with mastery. He understood something we've forgotten. The mind grows stronger in silence. Today, everyone wants to be a thought leader. But the Stoics would ask, why not be a thought master first? The leader speaks often. The master speaks rarely, but every word hits like thunder because his speech comes from stillness, not ego, from reflection, not reaction. In our digital age, people mistake expression for importance, but the wise don't rush to post, to argue, to correct everyone. They let others fill the room with noise, while they quietly build understanding. Silence is not ignorance. It's strategy, it's discipline, it's wisdom under control. Here's something to reflect on deeply. Every time you boast about what you know, you surrender the humility that allows knowledge to grow. But every time you stay silent and listen, you sharpen your perception, and perception is power. The Stoic sage doesn't need applause for his intellect. He lets his choices reveal his wisdom, because wisdom is not what you say. It's how you live. You can quote Epictetus all day, but if you lose your temper in traffic, you've learned nothing. You can debate Stoicism on forums for hours, but if you can't forgive, you've missed the essence. Knowledge fills the mind. Wisdom transforms the soul, and transformation happens in silence, in reflection, not performance. So protect the depth of your knowledge. Don't reveal your full understanding to those who only wish to argue. Don't display your insight to those who see wisdom as competition. And never use knowledge to feed your ego. That's like poisoning yourself with your own medicine. Instead, be the calm voice in a world of noise. The quiet thinker in a room full of talkers. The one who listens, observes, and speaks last when it truly matters. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." The same is true for ignorance. The best way to defeat ignorance isn't to argue. It's to outgrow it quietly. So the next time you feel the urge to prove how much you know, pause. Let others speak. Let them underestimate you, because when the time comes to act, your wisdom will do what words never could. Keep your knowledge deep, calm, and hidden, like a still ocean. Those who live in the shallow will make noise. You, the Stoic, will make waves, and when you finally choose to speak, your silence will have already said everything. The kindness you do for others. The strength that needs no witness. There is a quiet kind of goodness in this world. The kind that doesn't seek applause, or cameras, or credit. It doesn't announce itself. It simply is. But we live in an age where goodness has become a performance, where charity must be photographed, where kindness demands recognition, where we say, if no one saw it, did it even happen? The Stoics would shake their heads. Because true virtue, real, unshakable virtue, is never about the crowd. It is about the character. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you've done a good act, and another has benefited by it, why do you still look for a third thing, the credit for being good?" In those few words lies an entire philosophy of life. When you do something kind and another human being is helped, that is enough. Anything more than that is ego disguised as virtue. The Stoic does not serve others to be admired. He serves because it is right, because goodness is its own reward, because his moral compass points inward, not outward. You see, when your kindness depends on being seen, it is no longer kindness. It is marketing. Think about how often we've done this. We help someone, and then feel disappointed when they don't thank us enough. We give and secretly expect admiration. We serve, but deep down we want to be noticed. That is not virtue. That is transaction. And every transaction makes the soul smaller. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." That's the challenge of real Stoic kindness. It's not about what you say or show, it's about what you are. Every act of quiet generosity is a declaration of who you have become, not the version people see online, but the version you face in silence, when no one's watching, When you do good and speak of it, you feed your ego. When you do good and stay silent, you feed your soul. Because the moment you talk about your kindness, you shift the light from the deed to yourself, and virtue becomes vanity. Seneca taught, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." He didn't say, "Wherever there is an audience." He said, "Wherever there is a human being." That means your power to do good is not limited by stage, status, or spotlight. It's found in the smallest unseen gestures, helping someone cross the street, listening when no one else will, forgiving when you could easily punish. These are the silent victories that shape the character of the Stoic. But beware, even the purest heart can be seduced by recognition. You'll find yourself thinking, maybe I should tell people what I did. It might inspire them. Maybe it will. But often, it only inspires your own pride, because pride grows like a shadow, invisible at first until it blocks your own light. True kindness doesn't demand to be remembered. It doesn't need the world to know who helped. It simply trusts that goodness echoes, even if your name is forgotten. The Stoics knew this deeply. They believed in logos, the universal reason that connects all things. So when you do good, the universe itself remembers. You don't need the world's memory, only your conscience. Let's be honest, it's hard to be kind without expecting anything back. We're human. We crave appreciation, recognition, love. But the Stoic understands, when you let go of the need for gratitude, you experience a deeper freedom. You are no longer a slave to other people's reactions. You give without expecting return. You serve without seeking applause. You act purely. And that purity strengthens you. There's a paradox here. The more you seek to be seen as good, the less good you become. But the less you care to be seen, the more your goodness grows. That's why Stoic kindness is not loud. It's calm. It's unshakable. It's the hand that helps and withdraws without needing credit. There's a story about the Stoic philosopher Cleanthes. He was found one day carrying water for his garden late at night. When asked why he didn't hire a servant, he smiled and said, "Because virtue does not sleep, even when the world does." That is the essence of the Stoic heart, doing what must be done, not for praise, but for principle. Now, in our time, people show their kindness through posts, captions, hashtags. Be kind, they say, but their kindness stops at the camera lens. Real kindness begins after the camera is off, because the world doesn't need to see your light. It needs to feel it. And that feeling only comes when your actions are sincere, when they are unadvertised, unfiltered, unperformed. Seneca also reminded us, no man can live happily who regards himself alone. Kindness is not weakness. It is strength under control. It takes courage to help in silence, to give when no one gives back, to love when no one is watching, because kindness that depends on visibility dies in the dark. But kindness born of virtue glows even there. Think about the strongest people you've ever met, not the loudest, not the richest, but the ones who helped others even when they were struggling themselves. They didn't post about it. They didn't announce it. They just did it. That's the Stoic spirit. Strength in silence, compassion in motion. Here's something to remember. You don't have to make the world know your kindness. You just have to make the world better because of it. Your actions are your legacy. Your humility is your protection. And your silence is your shield against ego. So the next time you do something kind, resist the urge to speak about it. Let the good you do echo quietly. Because in the silence of selfless service, you'll find something far greater than recognition. You'll find peace. The Stoic sage gives without witness. He serves without name. And his reward is not applause. It's alignment. Alignment with nature, with reason, with the divine order itself. Because the universe doesn't need your performance. It needs your integrity, so be kind, but let it be invisible. Be generous, but let it be unspoken. Be good, and let your goodness speak through your life, not your words. The greatest kindness is the one that leaves no signature, only a silent ripple that heals the world, one unseen act at a time. The conflicts of your inner circle. When silence becomes strength, there are storms that strike from outside, and there are storms that rise from within, the first kind you can prepare for. You can build walls, find shelter, brace yourself. But the second, the conflict that brews within your inner circle, the tension between family, friends, mentors, colleagues, that storm cuts deeper because it doesn't strike your body. It pierces your trust. You can endure an enemy's attack, but the wound from someone you love, that's the one that teaches you real Stoicism. The Stoics called this the trial of the familiar. It's easy to be calm with strangers. It's easy to forgive the world, but to hold your peace when those close to you betray it, that is the highest discipline. Epictetus once warned, "When a man tells you that someone speaks ill of you, do not defend yourself but reply, 'He does not know my other faults, else he would not have mentioned only these.'" That's not sarcasm. It's spiritual mastery. He was teaching that when others within your circle turn against you, you do not stoop down to their level. You rise above it. Because the moment you respond with the same venom, you've joined the chaos you were meant to transcend. Conflicts within the inner circle are not like public arguments. They are quiet wars, fought in glances, messages, silences. And those wars can destroy your peace faster than any external enemy. That's why the Stoic must protect his inner state like a fortress. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy," meaning, don't mirror their anger, their gossip, their bitterness. Your calm is your shield. Your restraint is your weapon. When someone in your circle misunderstands you, your instinct will be to explain, to defend, to argue until they finally see your heart. But here's the truth. Most people don't want to understand. They want to win. And you can't reason with someone who's arguing to protect their ego. So what should you do? You step back. You observe. You let silence do the talking. Because silence carries a kind of power that no words can match. Think about the sun. It never argues with the clouds. It simply waits for them to pass. Your peace must be the same. When you're hurt by someone close, remember this. You are not required to explain your character to those who already decided who you are. Let them believe what they wish. Time reveals everything that words cannot. Seneca said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." So every time you react with rage or frustration, you damage yourself more than the betrayal itself did. There's a dangerous impulse in human nature, the need to expose others when they've wronged us. We want the world to see their faults, their lies, their hypocrisy. We want justice. But the Stoic path demands a harder kind of justice, the justice of self-control, because real power is not in proving them wrong, it's in proving that they no longer have the power to disturb your soul. Marcus Aurelius lived surrounded by politics, betrayal, and manipulation, even from those closest to him. Yet his writings contain no hatred, no revenge, only observation, only reflection, only grace under pressure. He wrote, "To live in harmony with all men, consider not what they do, but what they intend." It's a reminder that people act from ignorance, fear, and pain. So when they hurt you, they are really revealing themselves, not you. Let's reflect on your own life. How many hours have you lost replaying arguments in your mind? How much energy have you wasted trying to make someone see the truth? How many nights have you stayed awake, crafting the perfect message, only to realize the peace you're chasing is in not sending it at all? That's the Stoic choice. To stop chasing validation and start cultivating inner stillness. Because not every battle deserves your sword. Some deserve your silence. And silence, when chosen from strength, not fear, is one of the most powerful weapons in existence. There's another Stoic principle worth remembering. You can't control the minds of others, but you can master the climate within your own. Your inner circle may erupt with drama, accusations, rumors, disappointment. But you, the Stoic, stand like a mountain, unshaken, observing, acting only when reason, not emotion, commands. The world may see that as cold. But Stoicism isn't about being heartless. It's about being heart-steady. You feel deeply, but you choose wisely. You forgive without announcement. You detach without cruelty. You love without losing yourself. That's emotional strength, the kind modern culture doesn't teach, but every Stoic lived by. Epictetus said something profound about relationships. Never depend on the admiration of others. There is no strength in it. Personal merit cannot be derived from another's opinion. So if someone in your circle turns away from you, don't see it as a loss. See it as a lesson. People's loyalty changes with their needs, but your integrity must never change with their behavior. Think of the Stoic as a lighthouse. The waves crash, the storms rage. Ships may come and go, some grateful for the light, others resentful of its brightness. But the lighthouse remains, doing its duty in silence. Be that. Be unwavering, consistent, unshaken by human tides. Here's a truth that takes years to understand. Not everyone in your inner circle is meant to go with you to your next level of peace. Some are teachers disguised as friends. They come to expose your triggers, your attachments, your illusions. And when they leave, they take a version of you with them, the one that still needed their approval. So let them go, in peace, with gratitude, because their absence might be your liberation. When you stay calm in the middle of betrayal, you don't just protect your dignity. You evolve your spirit. You rise from reaction to observation, from emotion to wisdom, and that shift, that silent, inner transformation, is the essence of Stoic enlightenment. So remember, you don't owe the world your side of the story. You owe yourself your peace. The truth always finds its way to light, but it doesn't need your anger to carry it there. The next time you face conflict within your inner circle, pause, breathe, step back into your power. Let your calm be your response. Let your silence be your statement. Let your dignity be your victory. Because the one who keeps his peace when his circle falls apart, that's not weakness. That's mastery. The Stoic does not fight every battle. He chooses which storms deserve his thunder, and sometimes none of them do. Be still. Be calm. Be sovereign, and let your peace be the loudest thing about you. The depth of your spiritual practice, the sacred silence. Within there is a part of you the world can never touch. A quiet, sacred space, beyond emotion, beyond thought, beyond fear. It's not your mind. It's not your body. It's the soul that watches both. That is where your strength begins. That is your inner temple. And that, like the Stoics said, should never be exposed, never explained, never flaunted, because once you speak too much of your spiritual depth, you begin to trade it for approval. You turn sacred into spectacle, and what was meant to connect you with eternity becomes just another way to impress time. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor surrounded by gold and war, said something extraordinary. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. He ruled the largest empire in the world, yet his peace came not from palaces, but from presence. Every morning he turned inward to find that retreat. He meditated not to escape the world, but to remember who he was before the world told him who to be. You see, spirituality isn't something you post about. It isn't something you debate or advertise. It's the discipline of returning, again and again, to the quiet voice inside you that says, "Be still. You are enough." In that stillness, your spirit expands. In that stillness, your ego dissolves. And that's why the Stoics warned, never disclose the full depth of your spiritual practice, because the moment you try to prove your purity, you lose it. Seneca wrote, "I will look upon death or upon a comedy with the same expression of countenance." That is not coldness, that's spiritual maturity. A soul so deeply rooted in reason and faith that nothing external can disturb it. That calm, that sacred neutrality, comes from years of inner work, from rituals the world will never see. Early mornings of silence, hours of reflection, moments of surrender, whispers of gratitude that no one will ever hear. That is your private covenant with yourself, and it must remain unspoken. We live in a time where spirituality has become a brand. People measure peace by likes, not by stillness. They post about mindfulness while rushing through life. They quote Marcus Aurelius but haven't met their own silence in years. Real spirituality isn't what you share. It's what you protect. It's not the incense or the journal or the ritual. It's the honesty behind them, the quiet effort to stay kind, disciplined, and unshaken when no one is watching. Epictetus said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, the world doesn't have to understand your spiritual path. Let them call it strange. Let them mock your solitude, your restraint, your refusal to engage in drama, because they don't see what you're building, a fortress within. The Stoic's spiritual practice is invisible. He does not preach and he embodies. He doesn't tell people what he believes. He lives it. His faith is not loud. It's not a sermon. It's a way of breathing, walking, existing, with grace and control. He wakes with gratitude, acts with justice, and sleeps with peace. Not because he told the world, but because he told himself. There's a quiet power in holding your sacred life close to your chest. When you pray, when you meditate, when you reflect, keep it between you and the universe. Because the more you explain your connection to the divine, the more it becomes about your words, not your wisdom. And the divine cannot be explained, it can only be experienced. Think of the flame of a candle in a dark room. If you shield it with your hands, it glows steady and bright. But if you expose it to every wind, it flickers and dies. Your spiritual depth is that flame. Protect it. Let the world see the light, but never the wick that burns to keep it alive. When you keep your spiritual practice private, you build a kind of inner strength that cannot be imitated. Because mystery protects energy, and silence protects sacredness. Even the Stoic gods, the Logos, the universal reason, were understood to move quietly, without spectacle. They govern through harmony, not noise. Through order, not display. Be the same. Let your discipline, not your declarations, reveal your faith. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That is the highest form of spirituality. No sermon, no theory, only example. Because virtue, when practiced silently, becomes divine." When you live with integrity, you don't need to talk about enlightenment. You radiate it. But here's the paradox. The deeper your practice grows, the less you feel the need to speak about it. Because the soul that has touched truth no longer seeks attention. It seeks alignment. You start withdrawing from meaningless noise, from endless debates, from the chase for recognition. And what replaces them is peace. Not the peace that comes from having everything, but from needing nothing. In the end, spirituality is not an achievement. It's a return. A return to your nature, to reason, to virtue, to the divine rhythm of the universe flowing through you, and that rhythm is too sacred to be displayed. It must be lived, not lectured. Felt, not flaunted. So hold your spiritual depth close. Don't explain your faith. Don't defend your path. Don't prove your peace. You are not here to convince the world. You are here to connect with it. And connection does not need an audience. When you walk through life with calm, gratitude, and purpose, the world will sense something different in you. They'll feel the stillness, the discipline, the light, and they'll ask, "What's your secret?" Smile gently and say nothing. Because that silence, that sacred silence, is your sermon. The power of what you don't reveal. So now you know the 7 things the Stoics kept hidden. Your emotions, your plans, your fears, your knowledge, your kindness, your conflicts, and your spiritual depth. Why? Because the more you reveal, the more you weaken the sanctity of your inner life. The Stoic understands. Power grows in silence. Wisdom grows in restraint. Peace grows in what the world never sees. If this message has spoken to you, if you felt the truth of it deep inside your soul, remember, your strength begins in silence. And if you seek more guidance on walking this path, on living with reason, calm, and courage, then stay with us. This is Stoic Sage Academy, where we turn timeless philosophy into modern power. Like this video if it gave you peace, share it if it gave you strength, and subscribe if you want to grow, not louder, but wiser. Because in a world that worships noise, we are here to master silence.